Good morning, guys. I am standing here in my garden and I'm going to take you along for a tour to see what's growing in our garden this summer, what's basically survived the drought that we've been having. It's been a really rough year for gardening, especially this summer. A lot of things have been really struggling, and we had to let go of a lot of things that we have here. So let's see what it looks like right now. I have already cleaned up quite a lot of things that just weren't growing anymore, but let's see what's left over and what's growing and what's successful and what isn't. The first thing I wanted to address was this fence that we have here. I don't think I've ever showed you guys that we built this fence with two gates. One is here and another one is there on the other side where the chickens are. But we basically made this for Olive to not be able to come and dig out all of our vegetables. So it starts there with the chickens. There is like a path that we go. There's one entrance and then it just goes along all of the garden, and there's another entrance on the other side. It was really necessary to be made as soon as we could because our little new puppy Olive, when she was little, and she still does sometimes, she would just come in here and dug deep holes in the beds that we had stuff growing. I don't know if I made any videos about that, I don't remember now, but basically where we had broad beans and stuff like that, everything was just dug up, and it was just a nightmare and a fight with her all the time to keep her out of this garden. And so I said, no, we need to have a fence here, otherwise it's just gonna be impossible to grow anything here because she will just want to come in. And she was also eating everything that she sees. Well, as a puppy, but she has improved. She doesn't do that anymore that much, but she still every now and then finds a place to dig up. But I'm not too worried about the front stuff. And at the same time, I always kind of like those gardens where there is this kind of separation. We have the backyard and we have our garden part, and I think it kind of creates a little bit of an interest, maybe separation. And yeah, I quite like that idea. We have space where we can like attach tomatoes and grow anything that's climbing over there as well, so it really is useful and I really like this separation. So starting over here, we just have entered and we have this path that goes with some grapevines that we had planted, and here on this side we have bed number 1, and we basically only have tomatoes left in here and a few pumpkins that have spread all out there, if you can see. But yeah, I recently had to clean up all of these tomatoes. Like, as you can see, they're really bare at the bottom. They were just all fallen over, and yeah, it's easier to pick them right now like this. Then on this side we had a lot of watermelons and melons planted and some squashes. As you can see, there's still 1 or 2 plants left. We also had few courgette plants. I pulled them all out just a few days ago because courgettes were not producing anything. Watermelons and melons are completely had dried out. Nothing was growing, and yeah, I just thought, no, I'm cleaning it all up. I don't want to see this mess anymore. And then over here we have sweet potatoes. As I showed you before, we have grapevines. This is We planted this one this year. This one that's here is already planted last year, and we were able to pick quite a lot of grapes from this one already. They weren't all really like pretty. They had some kind of disease, or they had dried out. I don't really know, but there is quite a lot of them, and we are still eating them, and they're really delicious. But now we have this arch there, and they are beautifully climbing all up there. Here we have one beautiful pumpkin, which is a rarity in our garden. It's just something we were never able to grow, and this year, being the hardest year, they decide to grow. We have two of these big pumpkins. I think the variety maybe is Provence, something like that. I will have to have a look at that. But we bought both of these seedlings all the pumpkin seedlings we bought in the market, and another one is just, I think, a butternut squash pumpkin, and they are also growing quite well. We already had picked two. I am going to try and cook one today. And continuing in our beds, here we have peppers. So you can see some beautiful peppers this year. It's just something really random with our garden this year, but peppers as well. We were not really able to grow very big, juicy peppers, and this year we seem to be able to have quite a lot. And yeah, as you can see, here's one big one even still that I need to pick soon. I left some kale here. It's been eaten a little bit by bugs now, but it had been doing quite well, and I'm intending to leave it here because it is a perennial vegetable. And here we have some tomatoes. Just a few of these Roma tomato plants this year. As I said in one of the previous videos, Fabio's parents had planted tons and tons of tomatoes, and we knew they planted them earlier than we did, and we knew that they always plant a lot of canning tomatoes. That's their favorite varieties, and I just thought, well, we will have lots of tomatoes from them. There is just no point for us to plant that many for us, just for us to use in salads and stuff. So I only planted a few of these canning tomatoes here. Yeah, but these are also good for salads and stuff like that. We always have problems growing the bigger varieties of tomatoes. We always have tons and tons and tons of cherry tomatoes. Those are super easy to grow, and they just always grow such abundance of tomatoes. And the bigger ones are a bit harder. The one variety that we really like, the Portuguese variety, is the Coração de Boi. And I mean, it grows, but this year we've had like 3 tomatoes per plant, and I think we only had 1 or 2 plants of them. And these Roma tomatoes, they grow a lot more tomatoes. They are not as tasty as the other ones, as the other big varieties, but they are still good for salads if you want to have it on toast or something like that, if you don't want to have cherry tomatoes. So I'm glad we have quite a few of these as well, because I'm kind of tired of cherry tomatoes this year. Over here I have left one watermelon plant climbing up this wall. It's not growing anything, but it looks kind of pretty, so I left it be. Another thing that we did this year is you cannot see them now because they're behind the sweet potatoes, but we had planted a few blackberry plants in there, and we planted a few grapes here as well. So we decided that we will just leave this area for more permanent plants. If you want, you can plant something in between them. Yeah, like there is one cherry tomato as well. And but yeah, we just decided that this bed works better for that kind of stuff. On this side we have sweet potatoes and more sweet potatoes. Unfortunately, they're both the same variety, and those are not my favorite sweet potatoes. These are the white ones that have a white flesh, and not orange ones like I usually prefer. But we couldn't find any seedlings for it. Even sweet potatoes this year, that's something that grows super easily here in our soil. We've had success, and even this year they have been struggling a lot with the heat. Then over here in this bed we have basil, and that's pretty much it, because this squash this pumpkin is from another bed, it's just coming here. But I had a few pumpkins in here, I had a few courgettes this year as well. None of them grew anything. We've had terrible year for courgettes. We had, I think I have picked only 2 courgettes from our own garden this year. Don't know again what's the problem. But basil we have lots. I have already preserved a few batches. If you want to, I can show you what it's like, how I preserve them. Let me know in the comments. But yeah, that's pretty much it. I cleaned everything else out of here. We had also a few lettuces here, but they again went all to the chickens. And here a few teeny tiny tomatoes that are left here. Again, these are all the tomatoes that I planted from seed. All the other tomatoes we bought seedlings in the market, and these are supposed to be some more fancy varieties, some of the bigger kind of varieties of tomatoes. But as you can see, oh, this one's completely died off because I accidentally broke it, but we'll see, maybe it survives something. But yeah, as you can see, the big tomato varieties seem to be struggling. It's only 1 or 2 tomatoes per plant. So, and for some reason these have been taking a very long time to grow, because for other plants we have pretty much the season is over, and these ones only just started to grow here. Anyways, and this is an empty bed here. I had black beans in all of this bed. They grew, but then they were struggling in the heat, and even though we have watering system on everything, as you can see, but it was a struggle for them. Then over here, which is just across from that side, across the fence, we created 2 new beds. One bed goes along the fence, and one bed here which had potatoes growing. As you can see, the soil here is pretty much like beach sand. It's absolutely terrible. We did add manure in this, we did add compost, but what we should have done, we should have covered this area after we picked the potatoes, and we didn't do that, because now in this sun it's just completely dried out. This bed is a little bit better because it has watering on, and here we have more peppers, all growing nicely. We did have green beans planted all across that to climb on the fence. Green beans were again a big disaster this year. Nothing grew. Moving on Here is one success of this year, which is aubergines. It's just insane almost how much aubergines we've got this year. They've been loving this for some reason. And I even had a few go bad because we just couldn't even pick them all. And yeah, they just keep producing, so that's one thing that's been doing okay in this garden. We have a few more of small cherry tomato varieties. This is a bit different. This is the pear one. Again, I don't even remember planting this. Here we have a different pepper variety, which is the Corno di Toro. It's only a tiny one left on here. Oh, there's some bigger ones. So it's it has a bit of a different flavor. It has a little bit of spice, but very, very, very mild. And some of them don't even have any spice at all. But they grow so many of them. And we have red ones and the yellow ones. But the plant looks very tiny. Yeah, there is the yellow ones here. Which I have all picked them all off, and then there's more of the red ones. There's one squash growing. These are the ones that I said were quite successful this year. For some reason though, they start to split, even though it's not ready to pick yet. Don't know what that means. If you know, let me know. And then we have, for some reason, a few more cherry tomatoes, like if we didn't have enough. And we have some more squashes and pumpkins going there. Yeah, watermelons and melons. We never were able to grow anything good, anything that's even like pretty edible. We have grown a few melons, but they had no flavor at all, so we just gave them to chickens, and they were very tiny as well. And I think in the future we have decided to not try them anymore. Next year we get quite good watermelons and melons from Fabio's parents. They grow them absolutely delicious. I don't know what's his secret, but they are so much better than ours, and they grow so many of them as well. They always give us tons, so it's really, there's pretty much no point for us to try unless we develop the soil and we feel confident that we can grow something that's going to be better than what we have tried. Other than that, it's just a waste of time and money and water. Here are our chickies. Still all of them, all 4 of them are working there in the corner. We leave now 3 water dispensers which actually need to be filled up, and 1 for food, because we do sometimes leave them for quite a few days at a time. So when we fill all 3 of them, they have plenty of water for a few days. But yeah, they're still producing eggs, quite a lot of them, and yeah, they're so happy. Here's our doggy dog, Olive. Good girl. And this is our food forest area, which has suffered the most in our garden this year, because there is just no watering system set up. Last year we were watering with a hose every single day. We did try to do that this year as well, but we weren't able to do it every day. But also at the same time, we did water it. We did everything that we could possibly do to keep these things alive. But that's how it pretty much was. It was about keeping things alive. There was no even talk or thought about any abundance of or any new growth of anything. Only exception that has been thriving this year is this apricot tree. I mean, look at how big it is. It has grown so much. We had more than 20 fruits. I am crazy, I counted, but we had quite a lot of fruits, and this is one of the youngest trees we have. This is our loquat or nespreiro. I mean, it has a very slow growth. It still has no fruit, and it has a lot of sunburn on its leaves. So, but it's surviving. It's survival mode for all of the trees in this garden. The soil has just dried out in this winter and spring and summer so much that it doesn't even absorb any water anymore. Because last year I remember it was hot, it was summer as usual, and we would water it, and then the trees were just happy for a few days. We would never see them like become all floppy, any of the trees. And this year it was completely different scenario. No matter how much water we put on the trees, some of the trees, not this loquat, but mostly this poor little avocado tree that's pretty much dead, you water it one day, the next day it's already become all floppy, like if it hasn't even been watered yesterday. And it just became this kind of circle that where we just can't keep up with watering all of this. So we had to kind of say goodbye to some of the plants because we just couldn't keep up with how much water it needed, because it just wasn't absorbing anything. It's dry so deep down that there is just no water anywhere underneath. You water it, it stays on the surface, and then it just disappears somewhere, and the plant doesn't really get much of anything. And yeah, and so far I think we have lost a few trees like this. One of the trees that's the most affected is this avocado tree. I cut the top off because it was just dried out. All the leaves fell off. There is a bit of new growth that I'm seeing now, but yeah, it's been struggling completely in the sun. There is mulch, it's been watered, I even fertilized it, and nothing really is happening. Nothing can save it, I think, anymore, unless there's like good rains coming. This one's our pomegranate. It has been doing quite well, okay, comparing to some of the other trees that we have. It's still very small. We bought it very small, but it has had some new growth this year, and it even had a few flowers, so that one's doing okay. We have a few lavenders that are struggling, lemongrass struggling as well. And then over here we have some more lavender, and we have one rose that's been really good this year, but struggling now. Then we have a plum tree, which last year it had a few, like 3 or 4 plums. This year I think it only had 1. It has no new growth. It's pretty much in a survival mode again. It is doing okay, but it's not really growing any bigger or growing any fruits. A few surviving flowers. One of the sad trees is this apple. Apple is something that we knew doesn't grow very well in these conditions. It needs a lot more cold weather than we can provide it with, and yeah, it just died off. I don't think it's coming back. We'll see in the winter or next spring. And then we have over here these 2 trees. This is a peach. It's again not really any new growth, but it's not dying, so that's a positive, I think, in our garden. Then we have lemon verbena. I'm letting it increase in size this year because last year when I planted it, I was desperate to have some lemon verbena tea, and I cut it back quite a bit, which decreased its growth. And this year I decided I'm gonna let it grow. We have some lemon verbena tea. Don't need to be impatient with it. And here we have our nectarine. Again, it doesn't look very good anymore. It's finished producing. It had quite a lot of fruit on it this year, but they were very tiny. But they were so sweet. I don't know if you remember, but we used to have strawberries all in this area. Strawberries don't do very well in a very high heat like we have here, and we were watering them. I was trying to keep them alive, but again, it was one of those things that is just to keep them alive. And in the end I decided, you know what, it's just a waste of water. It doesn't even matter if they survive this summer because they will not be producing anything probably for the next year. So I just let them all die off, and we will just plant them somewhere else next time where we can have a better watering system, where it gets a bit more shade. Believe it or not, they need shade in our garden, in our climate. We will try it in a new space and see how it goes, because here they were not doing well. They were just surviving here. And when you plant strawberries, we actually need to plant them now soon. Not now, it's still really hot outside, but we need to plant them out soon, in October maybe, end of September. And they should already produce strawberries in spring. So I'm not so worried that I let these ones go. This is our garden. That's what's left over after a big drought, which hasn't even finished yet. I am absolutely boiling walking around here. But yeah, it's been a terrible year for gardening, and I think a lot of people would get really discouraged with these kind of conditions, and we are a bit discouraged. We are a bit upset because we just cannot provide our vegetables, our garden with those conditions that they want. And yeah, it's just sad to see a lot of the trees that you have planted, that you've been waiting years for to bear some kind of fruit, and then they just die off because you just can't keep up with watering it. But we, at the same time, I'm not discouraged to continue gardening, even if it feels like this soil is absolutely terrible. There's no nutrients, it's dry, the water just runs through it, it doesn't absorb anything, barely anything is growing. You just need to water and water 2 times a day, if not even more, and it's a hard work for summer. But I'm not too discouraged about continuing. I still feel very passionate about gardening and growing our own stuff. I think it only motivates me to put more effort into making this garden and having the conditions, and just like work around it and just try different methods and just try to see what works and what doesn't. And maybe there are some things that we are not able to grow as well as you can see in other regions and of the world that have more rain, that have better soils, but we can grow oranges. And I'm like, I'm not trading that for anything. I'm not trading that for a good garlic crop or a good potato crop. So yeah, we just have to find ways how to grow some of our favorite things and how to improve our soil. And that's going to be one of our big challenges this year, obviously with the baby coming. I understand that maybe next year's garden will not be quite as taken care of, but we will see about that. But before the babies come, I want to do the most that we can possibly do to improve this garden, to improve the soil, and just work around the things that aren't working, and maybe let go of some things that we just aren't able to grow, at least yet, until we have improved our soil, improved our conditions, and learned maybe the tricks of growing good stuff. So yeah, that's going to be my challenge, our challenge, me and Fabio, and yeah, come along the journey and see how we get over these terrible conditions and drought and everything. Thank you for watching this garden tour. I hope you enjoyed to see what the realistic look is. It's not very Instagrammable or YouTubeable garden that we are having this year, but that's the reality. And I hope you enjoyed some honesty on this channel. Thank you for watching, and see you in the next video.